folks. You're listening to the Science of Superpowers. Les Jensen's here, and we're talking all about uplifting humanity. And before the break, we discussed that there are some energetics involved with this. There are some components involved with this, and there is love involved. If we don't believe ourselves to be capable of love, to be lovable, to be loving, to want love, to have that component element present, or maybe love is too much of a stretch for you. It sounds too hard to connect into that. Maybe you haven't had the best relationship with that word. And so perhaps we can look at something even like, what would it look like if we were content? What would it look like if we felt some sort of connectivity with each other? What would it look like if we could see each other and say, I don't know that I really want to hurt you, actually. Like, I don't know that I want to say those things that are coming out of my mouth. They just kind of come out, right? Or I throw off that post and aha, I feel better, but then I don't, right? But we do it. We keep doing it. And some of it is we're conditioned in environments that where it's not real normalized to say, oh, that doesn't feel very good, or kind of hurts my feelings, right? A counterintelligence agent, right? First of all, you don't even talk about yourself. If you do, you're probably in the wrong profession. And secondly, you certainly don't talk about your feelings, right? That's absurd. And unless, I'm sure we all have a ton of examples of that. So how do you encourage people, and let's say men in particular, in celebration of the co-creation here? And it's tough how we've normalized masculinity. How do you carve spaces for yourselves in those conversations where love can be present?
Well, that's a good question. For myself, I didn't know so much about my relationship with my emotions. And I mean, I did not know how postured I was, how perhaps my ego was a little bit spooked at the notion of connecting with my feelings. And so as a result of that, unconsciously, I would keep everything superficial. I would keep everything predictable. My ego wanted to make choices where I knew what the outcome was going to be, because I was afraid that if I had to venture off into emotions I wasn't familiar with, that I wouldn't know what the outcome is. And I know that's easy to say, and there might be those of you that are saying, I've gone through the ringer with emotions. I'm kind of tired of that. But to heal our relationship with our emotions, a lot of times it can just take a pause before we drop into reaction. So often we have this perpetual experience with our emotions because of our mind. The emotions themselves have no motive. The emotions are indifferent. The feeling themselves do not have an expected reaction. It's our mind that creates our problem with our emotions. And so when you feel emotions that you would prefer to avoid, just to be present with them and allow them to be felt and released in the moment and break that reactive pattern. And I know it can feel a little intimidating and perhaps a little spooky, but over time, your emotions turn out to be one of your best allies, because your emotions are just messengers. They're real-time messengers in the moment, giving you cues and clues about what you can choose in the moment to keep yourself congruent with who you really are.
Beautiful, beautifully said. I love the simplicity of that, folks. The steps are easy to follow. It's what we fear will happen that makes it seem so incredibly daunting, as those waves come over you, and they feel like waves, right? It's like there's a vibrational sensation of energetics that comes through. And to Les's point, the interpretation of them is what creates a lot of our angst. When we can ride those waves, not only do they become your best friends, it is the most rich and delicious experience of life that you can ever imagine. To be fully present in the most we'll say sensual of ways at the sensory level, right? Like we aim for sensational existences, right? Total satiation of all sensory perceptors in every moment. Are you kidding me? Hello, I'll take two, right? Like, and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to take a break after. Like, that's the feeling, right? I remember Stealing Fire, that book, if you're familiar with it. In there, they had interviewed or talked about a reference. I don't want to mess it all up. But what I took from it was that there was a monk who was questioned about abstinence. Like, what? How could you be celibate? Like, how is this like how do you do this? And he's like, pretty much a constant orgasm, like all the time. Like, and again, that's my paraphrase. That's how it
Right,
sounded
right.
in my mind. I'm sure it
Yeah.
was much more eloquent and probably even a little more religious than that. But in my world, it translated to like a constant orgasm. And if you're honest, like that's the fear, right? Like we got some really, really acute sensory perceptors. And then when those babies are firing, it's like, whoa, buddy, right? Like we're feeling everything. And that's what we mean by superpowers, folks. And it's coming whether we want to admit it or not. We're feeling it whether we want to admit it or not. We're in the experience, even if we want to ignore it. So take Les's advice. And if you're not in the process of like feeling even your emotions, folks, you've got a ways to go. This is like you just got to get good with it. And it's tough. Sometimes it leads us to, I don't know, tear up. And oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. What's someone going to think? That's so blah, 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 blah. No, they already know. If you're sitting there bottled up, all it's saying is I'm totally out of control. I can't be trusted. I'm not in management of myself, right? You're better off standing there going, whoa, whew, that just came through. Those are tears. Wow, I'm absolutely in the experience of sadness right now. You may not even know why, right? But our fumblings about to hide it often create the angst and create the challenges and create a life that we don't really want because people don't know us. They can't connect with us, right? There's no realness because we're in a constant program or our avatars are pretending to be something that they're not. There's an element of realness that I swear people don't recognize anymore, right? Where you take that breath and you go, whew, and you just land in your body, in you. That's home, folks. That's you. And from there, all kinds of miraculous things happen. And so, Les,